Where am I?
Who are you?
I'm a journalist.
Lost my whole crew today.
Why is he torturing us?
He thinks we have information.
Do we?
Stop now! You're killing him!
Up, Luke.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
There you go. Where are you at, man? I love your background and setting wherever.
Oh, thanks. I'm actually at my girlfriend's house in the dining room. We've got a nice set of
You really do. Yeah.
butt cheeks behind me and a bulldog and a Shania Twain Funko doll.
Oh, no way. I didn't even know they had one of those.
I know, right? Yeah, one of my best friends he's like collecting them right now, and so he's got a ton. And
Oh, that's a thing for sure.
Oh yeah. He's got a few that are like accruing value like pretty quickly apparently. So.
Well, your girlfriend's house has got a great setup for interviews, so there you go.
I know, like
very interesting background for sure, instead of just like a blank wall, you know?
Right. Yeah, the line self. No, we've been doing a lot of self tapes, obviously through the pandemic, so we've had to figure out where the best spots are.
Ah, interesting. Are you guys in LA or?
Yeah, in the Valley right now. Yeah.
There you go.
What about you?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Love Chicago.
I miss the Valley. I was living there until the pandemic started. Studio City, that was my spot.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Oh man, right in the good old neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk to you. First of all, you know what? I had I've been seeing a lot of you lately in Dumplin and Grand Isle. So it's like this movie now, Wildcat. I'm like, man, I've been on a roll with you. But the thing, for some reason, I thought you were Australian always. I have no clue why. I just saw like, oh, he looks like one of those Australian actors. You know what I mean? I just kept on thinking that does a good American accent, you know?
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, there was one person actually, it was in New York. I was trying to get on a ferry, I think. And the person who sold me my ticket was like, you are a Hemsworth. And I was like, no.
Maybe that's why.
I think there's one named Luke, I think.
Yep.
Too.
Yeah, there's a lot of Lukes too, and Australian actors are Luke Bracey, Luke Hemsworth. You know, I'm like, oh, another Luke probably. That's Australian too. Looks similar in a way. You know?
Yeah. I got the Australian height. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you're from Tennessee, right? So
yeah,
there you go.
Nashville, just outside.
Oh, that's cool. Well, hey, I'm excited to talk to you about this film because I love a good suspenseful kind of thriller. You know, the first movie it kind of reminded me of was like the setting wise. It kind of reminded me of this movie called Phone Booth with Colin Farrell. I don't know if you ever seen it. Or Locke with Tom Hardy too. It's like you're trapped in a space and a whole movie basically happens in the space and there's so much suspense and tension that you don't even realize that you're basically in one space and in one location the whole time, you know, but the tension's so rampant that it just takes your mind away from it all. Tell me about the location. Did you guys film in a warehouse, in a room? Was this all pretty much in one space? I'm just curious, you know, how you pull off a movie in just one location, make it so interesting and fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is all glory to Jonathan who wrote it. It's a beautiful script. It's, you know, obviously the heartbeat and what's driving it, and it has that, you know, the ticking clock the whole time, and the circumstances. But, you know, what carries the film is the dialogue and the characters and the groundedness of it. And he, I mean, knocked it out of the park. It's a beautiful film. But no, we shot it here in Burbank, not here.
Oh, wow.
Burbank, close.
Yeah.
At a place called Soapbox, which is a really great production company, up and coming. They do a ton. They do like all like the Marvel like cinematic trailers and teasers and all that kind of stuff. They work really close with Disney, and they've got a great facility there. And so everything was shot there. The production office was in there. We had 2 sets, I think, in total. One of them is the majority of the film, and then one is a few scenes there at the end. But dude, it was a really cool experience. You know, it's like the script felt very much like a play. There's not a ton of stage direction. Obviously, there's not very many location changes, and
right.
It's all like dialogue and like in between the lines and like, you know, expression. And and where do you find yourself in these circumstances? And so it was an actor's dream, to be very honest. And with the location being the same, we were allowed to shoot in sequence, and that's like unheard of. Normally it's because you're so
well, yeah, you switch off locations and everything. That's so rare for a movie to be actually all of it was in sequence.
All of it.
Wow.
Yeah, all of it. So it was really cool, especially with the it's one of those films that has such a distinct arc, and Georgina and I both were both eating very little in order to feel gaunt and to kind of maintain that image of sunken cheeks and a little bit pale and weak. So that allowed for us to kind of grow as well with our physical stature and state, and the emotion as well. It became for me, like my arc that I wanted to play was up front a little bit more confident, maybe, and overly confident. Honestly, I think that he's probably overcompensating for a lot of the fear that he feels, but to gradually coming to terms with his circumstances, and because we shot in sequence, it was really easy to track that entire arc, and it was cool, man. That's
cool. No, just hearing it in sequence, and this movie's divided in like these chapters too, so that's kind of cool too in that aspect. It felt to me like the more you talk about it, also I reinforces what I felt. It felt like a stage play in a lot of ways too. Did it feel to you guys at some point, because you mentioned dialogue and it's mainly you two for a lot of the scenes and kind of on a stage in a sense, but being a set, but did it feel like a play that you were doing it when you were acting alongside Georgina?
Definitely. Yeah. It's a little different because obviously we're not doing all of it in one day. It's broken up into like little pieces, but it was kind of, I've done a little bit of stage, but not a ton. I'm obviously much more comfortable with film. And it was, for me, it was kind of the fun middle ground of, having distinct moments each day and having a small set of the story to accomplish and having a few runs at it, and really like gearing up to like knock it all out of the park. And it was a cool middle ground because we were able to, live in the space, and there was rehearsals beforehand, and the collaboration with Jonathan was incredible. He's a genius. He's a genius filmmaker. He was able to open himself up to different opinions and perspectives while still maintaining his vision, which is really unheard of for a writer director. And so it's all because of him. That this is a powerful piece because of him. We were just the vessels to help carry out his story. But yeah, it was a cool middle ground between the feeling of a play and relying so much on character development and artistic connection with the obviously what comes into with the different camera angles and multiple takes and all that kind of stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, no question. I was going to kind of ask you that too, but you touched on it. How much play do you get? How much, you mentioned kind of allowed you guys to do stuff. When you do a role like this, it's heavy on dialogue and it's two people in a scene. How much improvising did you guys do together? I was curious, or you follow like directly the script word for word. Like, I'm guessing he gave you guys some wiggle room to just kind of create and play, right?
For sure. Yeah, there was definitely room. The thing was, we were able to have these conversations ahead of time. And we did have that, time to rehearse and time when we were like, this isn't feeling right. We were able to get to the bottom of it before we ever got into the set. And so I think that by the time we got there, it was so like fleshed out and we had already found the truth of the moment and found ourselves in it, that a lot of it was pretty congruent. Like we didn't, it wasn't too different take to take, just because it was that we were in such a great rhythm, I guess, by the time we actually got it on film, that really what we played with was the intricacies in between the moments and the small subtle choices of saying one sentence just slightly different and how that affects the other side of the conversation. And so yeah, not a ton of like improv, you know what I mean, like but it's because we were so well rehearsed and able to all get on the same page. There was a lot of wiggle room on, the actual nitty gritty.
I'm so interested in Georgina now. I wasn't aware of her. Really, I didn't know much about her as an actress, but after seeing her in this role, I'm like, wow, I need to check her out in different things. She carries a lot of this film too. Did you know her beforehand? Because you're working with someone in majority of the scenes. It's basically you two for a lot of it. How did you guys kind of form the chemistry? Did you know her beforehand, or just kind of got thrown in on set and got to know each other? And both of you were kind of starving apparently too to fit the role too. So tell me about that kind of the bond that you guys formed on set.
Yeah, no, we didn't know each other ahead of time. Just we're kind of, as is pretty typical with films, you just kind of thrown in there and do your job. And we clicked quickly. I do think that the circumstances we were in, it was obviously very intense, and we were going through very similar circumstances with our characters, which obviously affects your personal life. And so that was, we were able to really get on the same page there. And I love what I do, and I really want what's best for the entire film. And I think that actors can get in their own way a lot, in the sense of, only focusing on their performance and I need to save it. But we both kind of came at it from the point of view of we're going to give 110% every single take, and that's what's going to be best. And so, my off-camera work for her, I was, trying to push and give her as much as possible, and then vice versa. And so I think that really elevated those scenes as a whole, because we were, we ran it together. And I think that comes across. But no, she's insanely talented. And, she actually, I don't want to say got the short end of the stick, but, for me, I would get tortured, out of the room. You know what I mean? So,
right. Yes.
I would come in and we'd do the scenes, and then I'd go away, and then she'd, get tortured. And so she really had some tough scenes to get through. And she killed it.
Yeah, no question. It's just it freaks you out kind of as a viewer watching, man, there's probably nothing as scary as being hostage, in a foreign place. I can't even imagine that situation, but it's a real life situation. That's another scary part of it. This is not just some made up fable. These things happen, there's a lot of truth in what happens in these situations. Did you do any studies on people being taken hostage and anything you kind of discovered during the process of it? Or how was your kind of, I guess, your backstory knowledge of what happens in these locations to reenact it in a sense and portray it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously I'm not a soldier, and I can do my best to try and grasp the concepts of what that would look like. But that's very minimal. And so I looked into that. I've obviously gone through a couple of boot camps and stuff for other military roles I've played. And so I grew upon that, but I really wanted to find the humanity in it. And, when I was looking at this and trying to wrap my head around it, I kind of threw around the idea of why do some people break and why do some not break? They're all conditioned for torture. What is the distinct factor? And what I saw with this character was this sense of loyalty. And he has this line that I wrote across the front of my script. It kind of became my mantra through it, which was, I don't want to die for nothing. And it was something that I would just kind of repeat to myself over and over when I was really trying to connect to myself with him. And I thought that was really a driving force as to why he, was able to be so resilient and fight, is this loyalty to, his brothers and sisters that he went through training with, and that he's gone through this fight with, and that, he owes them something bigger than he's not just fighting through the torture because he's strong. He's fighting through the torture because he has to be strong for them. And I thought that was such a distinct thing that, humanized this character so much, that that's kind of what was a driving force. But then also one thing that was cool, so the movie starts and he has a bullet wound in his abdomen. And slowly it's infected, and so it's getting worse and worse. And so I had a couple of phone calls with some doctors talking about what that would look like, what it would feel like. And then ultimately once, you know, sepsis kind of kicked in, like what would be, you know, the just facts of what that person is going through. And obviously then that was subject to me interpreting it into my body. But, you know, it was, you know, the fever, like, and all that kind of stuff. And like, you know, the feeling of one thing I really thought was cool and that I grasped from it was the loss of some brain activity off the bat. And, you know, and when I was, you know, going through that, I kind of felt myself naturally because of that, and like preparing with that, stumbling and like feeling very foggy. And so yeah, that was something that I got some good information from them that helped.
Wow. I guess I'm going to leave you end off on this. What are some things you like to do for fun? I always love asking this question. Any hobbies or interests outside of acting that you just like to do to get away?
Yeah, for sure. I've been writing and directing and producing and stuff in my free time, but you know, outside of film completely, I've taken up golf through the pandemic. Cool. So I'm trying to get good at that. It's obviously a long process, but
yeah, I'm sure
I'm committed. I game. I like Call of Duty. I like, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, NBA 2K, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I love playing basketball. That's something I haven't done in obviously like a year, but hopefully that comes back soon. Yeah, I mean, and then other than that, you know, TV and hanging out with my girlfriend and playing with the
all
dog.
Normal fun stuff. I like that. It's just like you know what I mean, just living a normal life basically in that essence. Yeah. So oh, that's cool. I like that. You know, speaking of basketball, I always used to go to that park in Studio City on Moore Park, right off of Moore Park. There's a big park, and it used to have some couple hoops, so I'd hoop it up there too. So
yeah.
That's it reminds me of the good times.
Yeah, I know. They put like wooden planks on all the hoops now outdoors.
Oh, so they did?
An option to go. Yeah. Because people would go and play no matter what.
I can see that. Why? Well, Luke, this was a blast to get to talk to you. Like I said, I've been seeing a lot of you finally get to catch up. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really suspenseful and intense, and you did a heck of a job. You know, you and Georgina really put it out there. So awesome stuff. Looking for what's next from you. So
thank you, man.
Keep it up.
It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you. Dude.
Absolutely. Let's catch up on the next one then.
Sounds great.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Peace. You too.
Bye-bye.